iceberg lettuce.
Good
There's
day,
no flavor.
Internet.
It's just water.
Which
What's going on, Internet?
Hey, Internet. We were just talking about iceberg lettuce for the last 5
Mostly
seconds.
Mostly water.
But like, also, I feel like mostly water is not a bad thing.
No,
to
but
have
it's low it has low to no nutritional
in
value.
nutrients. Yeah.
Like it's kind of like bean sprouts. Bean sprouts have no nutritional value, but it's roughage. Like you need it for regularity.
I'm not sure what cucumbers have as far as like
they help,
dietary
don't they
stuff
help?
goes.
Oh, I thought you meant the eye.
But I know that it's also mostly water.
Most vegetables are mostly water. Actually, most produce are mostly water.
Cucumbers,
But,
are only good when they're turned into a pickle. Otherwise, cucumbers.
No, cucumbers. I mean,
so
I do.
Joe is a cucumber hater. I know people
Yeah.
like you.
Yep.
Not
You know
everybody
why?
likes
Because
cucumber.
Any day.
It's the bitter. It's that slight bitterness in it.
Oh, see, I don't think cucumbers are bitter at all. I think.
Oh
they
no,
just taste
I'm
like
thinking of
water.
zucchinis. I'm thinking of zucchinis.
That's what
My
I'm
bad.
saying.
Yeah.
Cucumbers
well,
notoriously taste like nothing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
that's
they're-
celery. Celery tastes like nothing to me.
Oh, see, celery I think has a little bit of a bitter taste.
Oh, it
And
tastes like
not
peanut
in
butter.
a bad way. I like celery, especially when it's cooked in like a soup or something. It really
people
helps.
add it because it has that crunch, that that tactile feedback.
You got the celery crunch.
Also, again, fiber.
I think
So
my garlic chicken. The little
Oh,
celery
yeah.
put in there is pretty tasty.
Garlic chicken.
Garlic chicken sounds good to me at all times. Yeah, so I am waiting on my rice cooker. Rob, this is going to be not necessarily the absolute next Live With It segment, but one of our upcoming segments. We were talking about rice and rice cookers, and I was like, who needs a rice cooker? I know
How
how to
often
make
do you
rice.
cook rice? How often do you need to cook rice to have a rice cooker?
Well, so good question. So like in Roger's house, Roger's like, we're making it every day.
It's a fixture, dude. You cannot go through life without a rice cooker.
And I'm more of like maybe once a week, but I also make a lot of rice at once. So it's like whatever I eat for dinner, it's
I
like
mean,
there's
I only
rice
make
left
it-
over, and so it kind of lasts me the rest of the next week.
I only make once a week, and then you get like a 8-quart thing, and you get it to the top, and you got dinner and lunch for most of the week.
Yeah. You just
If you're
add
into
stuff.
rice, if you're not as
you're into
rice based, Although I will add, if you do brown rice, you have to add 50% more water.
Really?
Yeah. Or it won't cook all the way through.
I mean, and like I was asking yesterday about like chicken broth or just broth in general, because I actually prefer making rice that way because it's just yummier. I don't know if that changes the amount of liquid
Well,
you have to add, because you are adding salt also.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the kind of broth you use too, right?
Yeah.
So, like if you make your own chicken stock, part of the thing about chicken stock though, like the stuff in the can, I think, or package is fine, but certain ones, the oil just floats to the top, and you might not necessarily want that in the rice. It depends.
Yeah,
It depends.
I think I'd be lying to you if I told you that I cooked rice 15 times plus a year. I take the under on 15 times.
Well, so like once a month.
Yeah.
2-minute warning.
It's like a once a month thing.
Sounds like
You
something
could do, you could do so
once-
much
Yeah.
more. I mean, if you eat a lot of things that need to be steamed, it's the easy way to steam stuff.
Oh, so you can do more than rice in a rice cooker?
Yeah.
I've
So
never looked at a rice cooker
It's
to
just
find out
a
what all
thing
the
that boils
capabilities are.
water, except that it at a certain when a certain amount of the water evaporates, it turns off. That's all an automatic rice cooker does, unless you get one of those smart fuzzy logic ones.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm excited about this. I'm gonna try stuff because I don't really steam a lot of vegetables anymore. Well, I mean, I guess I do technically, but in an oven. But
I try to avoid using. I hate cleaning pans, but also I don't have a hood in my kitchen.
oh,
so
I love it. Love a kitchen full of dirty pans.
No, like,
can't wait.
I don't have a hood
1
in my
minute.
kitchen, so if I cook, I have to open the windows and open the back door to get this.
I mean,
the
I've got
smell
a
out.
hood in my kitchen. I still have to. Yeah, you got to air it out.
Now,
it
when you
just-
cook, do you wash dishes as you go, or do you pile them all in the sink until you get done and then wash?
I
wash
try
as
to
I
cook
go.
as I clean, or clean as I cook.
I wash as I go.
it never is really like 1-in-1, but the more I can do when, for example, I'm waiting for the rice to finish or the broccoli or the chicken or whatever, it's like just a little pan at a time. My least favorite thing in the world is to be full of food, ready to chill, but the kitchen's a mess.
We are a house divided. I wash as I go. My wife does not.
Oh.
No,
So
she's like, I'm cooking.
whenever
That's what I'm doing.
my turn to do the dishes, I always get the short end of the stick.
How are you still married? Actually, my wife does the same thing. It's like, I'll wash it. I'll wash it.
Alice does all the cooking. I do all the cleaning. It's better that way. She knows how to cook.
I'll do everything as long as it's like, if I am a fan
Have
of
a good show, everybody.
Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Thursday, July 31st, the last day of July 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Columbus, Ohio, I'm Robb Dunewood.
And from the middle of the year, I am the show's producer, Roger Chang.
DTNS Live is made possible by you, thanks to all of you, including Chris Allen, Reed Fischler, Larry Bailey, and our new patrons, Finitra and UKIT.
Hey! We are on a roll with new patrons. Oh my gosh, it is so nice to have you, Finitra and UKIT. And I did say it was the last day of July, but for some of you in the world, it is the first day of August. So happy August to some of you. And goodbye July to the rest of us. How is everybody doing? Robb Dunewood, how are you?
It's a good day today.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's just like I've been happy-go-lucky. I mean, I'm literally whistling as I'm preparing notes and stuff for the show. So I'm in an exceptionally good mood today. So I don't know. I can't tell you
for
why.
breakfast?
Yeah.
Just
I want what he's having.
I literally had crunch berries for breakfast.
Crunch berries.
Captain Crunch, but
Oh,
with
got it,
with
yeah,
berries
got
and
it.
crunch berries. Yeah. So yeah, nothing special, but it's just like, I'm just like walking around whistling and just skipping.
Now,
and
and when it comes to cereal, are you a regular milk person where you do like oat milk or soy milk or alt
No,
milk?
I don't have any of that lactose intolerant stuff. So I do regular
all the way.
2%. It's milk all the way, 2% for me.
Yeah. Roger, what about you? What did you have for breakfast?
I had yogurt, granola, and blueberries.
That sounds
And
very
I feel the
good.
same. It sounds obnoxiously healthy, and obviously it hasn't elated me to the same extent that Robb's breakfast did for him.
Yeah, well.
Maybe
some
I need to
crunch
go
berries
on the
tomorrow.
Captain Crunch train or boat.
Yeah.
It was some tasty crunch berries. I give you that.
Well, welcome one and all to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it as we go through it together a little bit better. If you are watching live, you can name this episode. Head on over to dtns.showbot.tv to submit titles and vote on them. We'll check back in on the votes at the end of the show. It's a fun way to get your voice heard. What resonates with you as we go through some stories? Speaking of stories, let's kick it off with a few stories that caught our eye. According to Stack Overflow's 2025 developer survey, AI coding tool adoption continues to rise, but trust in their output is declining, with only 33% of developers that were polled trusting AI-generated code. Developers say these tools often produce almost right solutions that are harder to debug than just writing code from scratch, creating new technical debt and productivity issues.
I totally see that. There's one thing to write something, you know what you wrote. It's another thing to, okay, it wrote it for me, but now I have to see what it wrote specifically and to make sure if there are any bits of it. It's just a lot of work. You're basically QAing something else, as part of your
You're
project.
having an
And
assistant, and then you're checking that assistant's work. And that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. And I don't write code, not regularly anyway, but I do, write a lot of stuff for the show. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing as, I can be like, hey, ChatGPT or whatever, whatever model it might be. Like, ingest this article and tell me, what your 2 to 3 summary is, 2 to 3 sentence summary is.
So-
And often I'll look at it and I'm like, it's there. The information is there, but I have to punch it up. I have to make it my voice. And we're not at the point where anything feels really, really replicated for me.
Federal Trade Commission reports a dramatic increase in QR code phishing in 2025, leading to many individuals falling victim to malware and fake payment pages. This scam, known as quishing, is deceptively simple. Bad actors place fake QR code stickers often on top of legitimate codes, and when scanned, redirect users to fraudulent pages where private data like credit card or bank account information is unknowingly entered. And I actually have discovered a QR code sticker over top of a real sticker before. So, folks, you got to be really careful with this. It's in a place where you would expect to use it. It was a parking meter, and it just didn't look right. So, I scraped and peeled it off and then was able to use the right one. But yet, QR codes aren't going anywhere, but you've got to be diligent to make sure that you're scanning what you think you're scanning when you're using these things.
Yeah.
That is, first of all, I've never heard of quishing before, but now we know the term. That is... the QR code phenomenon, depending on where you live, has, many people are like, yeah, that's just how you connect to companies or pay for things or, all sorts of stuff. And I feel like, at least here in the US, it's more and more a thing that you're finding from companies like, hey, do you want to learn more about these plants that you just bought off the internet? Just scan the QR code. We'll, give you stuff. Again, that's something that came to me in the mail, so I'm not particularly worried about that card. But something like a parking meter or a gas station, you got to
even
have
if
your
a
wits about
package
you.
you buy off the store shelf, people could easily just relabel that. I don't know. I kind of avoid QR codes. I just look at the URL they want me to go to, and I'll punch it into like a Tor browser just to be double safe.
Yeah, some places it's just so convenient. I think the pandemic kind of, basically got everybody to start using them because they really weren't a big thing before the pandemic, but people didn't want to touch menus and everything was being wiped down, paper stuff. So I think that it made it easier, but you do have to be diligent because scammers are out here scamming.
And unlike a URL, it's really hard to deduce what you're looking at just by eyeballing it. But one thing that is probably easy to deduce is from Ford CEO Jim Farley announced during an earnings call on Wednesday that the company will unveil a breakthrough EV alongside a new platform on August 11th at an event in Kentucky. Farley called it, quote, a Model T moment for us at Ford. Now, the low-cost EV platform will underpin a pickup truck slated for 2027 and other vehicles in the future. So when he says Model T, I assume two things. One, it's going to have a handle in front that you crank, right? And two, it's going to be it's going to be affordable, right? Because that's the threat to EV makers that aren't Chinese, BYD or another companies, that you are being undercut on pricing, and you need to have an answer for that. Volkswagen is going through that same moment, so I'm actually very excited to see what Ford brings up.
I'm certain that someone could do the math, but I'd love to know how many cranks it would take to just get 1% battery on an EV battery if the front of the car has an actual hand crank on it.
Can you imagine if instead of a spare tire, that's what's in the trunk? Like if you run out of juice, you spend like the whole day just cranking so you can move like 5 miles. That would be interesting. I'm going to write a skit about that.
So it sounds like this announcement that's happening on August 11th is a new platform that Ford wants to use for upcoming, pickup truck,
EV
other vehicles in the future.
platform.
But there will for sure be an actual vehicle, the breakthrough EV at the same time.
So the idea, I from what I can deduce, is that this vehicle will use the new platform, but that's the showcase. So the actual platform, like for the most part, it's like, okay, this is where the actual footprint of the vehicle, and then you would design any other body that you would want on sedan, SUV, station wagon, pickup truck, or whatever. Because I assume it's going to be that flex. I mean, people don't realize that the Model T came in not just as a car, but also came as a truck in a number of different versions.
When it was first introduced, it wasn't
you
just
could
the
have
one?
different. You had different body styles to it, right? You had a station wagon, or like delivery vehicles.
But I feel like I only know the one kind
Sarah?
of Model T.
Don't you remember the horses? They pushed the horses out of the way for the Model T.
Right. No. Well, the horses pulled the car at first. That's how it first worked. Yeah. I'm kidding. Just in case anybody wants to email us. That was a joke. All right. So those were 3 stories that caught our eye this morning. But let's get into some discussions in a few. Uber Eats now lets merchants message customers who have ordered food from them in real time through a new live order chat feature, letting them confirm things like substitutions. Maybe you're allergic to, a certain kind of, I don't know, you're allergic to eggplant but not tomato, and that could be substituted. You can clarify special requests that a customer might have made over the app. You can check dietary needs. Customers can't initiate the chats themselves. So this is basically somebody being like, all right, I'm making you a bowl of ramen. You've added a bunch of ingredients. I want to make triple sure that you're not going to get it later and be upset that, something was added, kind of thing. It's available for both delivery and pickup orders, and it ends when the food's handed off. So this is a merchant getting ahead of something that's going to be a complaint later. It's now live in the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and select markets in Latin America and Asia. Merchants can also use, as part of the new Uber Eats app, AI-generated menu descriptions. If you just kind of want to punch up what you got on order, review summaries, and also enhanced food images. This one's kind of interesting because, you take a picture of food and you're a restaurant and you're like, yeah, that's what it looks like. Sometimes it's not as appetizing as it would taste if you're just looking at a photo. So that's the idea behind that, kind of like how commercials do that with food and have done so for a long time. Users can also submit post-delivery food photos themselves. And Uber Eats has kind of a silly chance to earn $3 in Uber Cash if you do that. You're not going to get a whole lot of money that way, but just encouraging people to share their photos as well. All right, so Rob, I don't know when the last time you used Uber Eats was, but does any of this make your next order sound more appetizing?
Yes, it does. Specifically the notes. And I've had this happen because I do have a drastic shellfish allergy. So I will often write a paragraph of, no shellfish. And that means I don't want it prepared near fish. I don't want clam oil in. I don't want any of that, near the food. And so sometimes I've actually had people, come back and say, well, if you don't want it, this normally has shrimp in it. Would you like chicken? And usually that would have been in there, but sometimes I'll ask and I'm like, yes. And I'm usually like, can you just make sure you don't put any clam oil in it? That will not be a good night for me if that were to happen. So I can see where if they do have questions, I would appreciate them having the ability to send me a text that I can very, very specifically tell them how I need my food prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good example of this. It's like, it's not just sort of like, oh, I don't like clam juice. It's like, no, if I eat that, I'm going to be very, very sick. And the review of your restaurant would potentially not be very great afterwards. That's how this all works. I think it also, and it depends on what you're getting, right? It's like, I use ramen as an example because whenever I order ramen, I always just, I add a bunch of like extras into it. So, there's all sorts of stuff floating in there and it's delicious. But every so often, there will end up being, a breakfast sandwich maybe that I get. And I don't like bacon, and bacon ends up on the sandwich. And it's like, oh man, did I mess that up? But if I would have said, ahead of time, hey, no bacon, please. And, maybe the merchant, they could just not add bacon, or they could be like, well, but the pan was fried in bacon, like right before I started making your breakfast sandwich. Is that fine or not fine type thing? Mm-hmm. That just makes me more of a satisfied customer. Even if it's not exactly what I want at the end of the day, that back and forth does feel like, a personalization that you would only really kind of expect from like a fancy restaurant.
Well, I think for the restaurants, oftentimes it can kind of be confusing a little bit because sometimes when you receive an order, it might not be exactly clear as to what you're ordering, depending, especially if it's a complicated order, like it's Chinese food and you want like certain things and you want substitutions. It can get very overwhelming, and being able just to let the customers like so exactly this is what you want, right? Because we also offer this dish, which sounds a lot like what you want, but you ordered this instead and you wanted to swap out the pork for the chicken. I can see it being helpful. I do think that I know customers can initiate it, but I think there should be a way to at least flag it, because sometimes I get my orders a little confused, where like what I ordered isn't what shows up, and it is a it's not a terribly long procedure, but just being able to nip it in the bud before it shows up at my door incorrectly would go a long way to making me satisfied.
And you're talking about something that just isn't what you ordered, not that it doesn't look as appetizing as what
or
you
is it,
thought.
or it's missing something. Like I thought based on the menu that it included this. It's not part of this. So I don't know if they included it and it somehow got lost along the way through delivery, or if they just didn't make it because they didn't know that this was part of the menu item that they were offering.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering about the AI food picks part of this update for Uber Eats is, and when Uber Eats has a variety of examples of like, here's the food that the restaurant, would have taken a photo of, and here's the AI enhanced version of it. It doesn't make the food look different, but it does make it look more professional. It does. And
it does.
that's it's like anytime you see any fast food commercial, it's like you look at that food, you're like, oh my gosh, it looks so good. Well, do you get that at the drive-thru? No, you get something that tastes good, probably, hopefully, but it's not going to look like that commercial. It just isn't.
I am a little concerned by that because certain individuals, me included, are often actually very annoyed if what the picture of what we're supposed to get ends up looking nothing like we get on our order. You know what I mean? Like it feels misleading, right? If it looks a certain
It can
way,
be, yeah.
like it doesn't. Great that it looks better. It's great for the restaurateur. But if I'm the customer and it does not appear that way, I'm going to be a little frustrated, right? If my Big Mac looks nothing like the picture of the Big Mac that McDonald's has the inside on the menu, I'm going to be a little miffed, right? Like there's no tomato in here.
But I mean, does it ever look like that?
But it
beautiful
should.
photo?
I mean, if you ask them, they'll actually redo it and make it that way. You just kind of have to. You have to be a little, can I talk to the manager, please? But they'll do it, at least in my experience.
My thing with it looking like it, I don't want glue and paint on my food to make it look like the picture. So just give me a picture of the actual dish.
Yeah.
Now you can use lights and you can put a little garnish here that may not make it into the container for to go. I get that, but I don't want you to do so much to where you're doing art on the food before you send it to me. I do want it to actually be, nutritious and delicious and not have glue and paint and all the stuff that they use that photographers use to actually make food look really, really good on TV, because you would never eat any of that stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's like that melted cheese that looks so delicious, actually glue. But that's a commercial, not what you're getting later. Yeah. So you're going to be disappointed by the look of it, but you'll probably like how it tastes. Also, for anybody out there who's like, wait a second, doesn't DoorDash already do this? Doesn't DoorDash have a merchant chat feature? Yes. Yeah. Uber Eats did not make this up. This is new to Uber Eats itself. This idea is alive in competing delivery apps as well.
And I still get the wrong order with DoorDash, and I talk into the hey, I thought this included a soup. Nope.
Right.
Guess not. Then why'd you put it in the menu?
The idea with all of this is there is that much less friction, right? Between what you ordered and what you end up getting. For some reason, somebody in the kitchen is like, let me just make sure that he really wants triple green onions in this ramen. Yeah, maybe that's what you want. Maybe that was a mistake that you made. That sort of thing.
And that's the double-edged sword of food delivery, right? Because unlike, say, if you're at the restaurant and it's like, hey, I ordered this and you gave me a chicken sandwich instead of a burger. Right? You could easily just go back, swap it out. If you're at home, you're kind of like, well, I'm really hungry and I got to wait another 30 minutes for my food. You know what I mean? Like it's not just friction. It's just like frustration, right? Where you're just livid because you're not only you hungry, but you got the wrong order. And those two generally do not pair well for a repeat customer.
Mm-hmm. I actually, I'm just going to admit this before we move on. I once, because mostly I order ramen at home. That's just one thing that I love ordering. I don't want to even tell you how many times I order ramen per month, but it's my thing. I once got a ramen order and it was like, they don't all do this the same way, but many of them will put the broth in one container and then everything else in the other container so that you mix it up yourself and it is that much fresher with the noodles when you get it. And I was like, you brought me everything but the broth. there's no broth. And I was very angry, you know, because I was hungry and I really wanted ramen. I'm like, you didn't add the broth. No, the broth was added. It was this weird container thing. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where all this other stuff is up above and the broth is underneath, but it all looks like one container, and then you have to pull them apart. I did not realize that till the next day when I was throwing it out, still mad, and I was like, oh God, it was my fault. The broth was there the whole time, and I sent them like, I'm very, very sorry. But, you know, to my point, this would have been something that, you know, like, heads up, we're doing this new thing with our containers, just so you aren't confused, would have been nice.
Right.
So anyway, all right, I'll get off my soapbox. Rob, it is getting harder and harder to tell the difference between what's a deep fake, what's a legitimately recorded video. Some of this is fun and some of this is very confusing. So what do we need to know when a video is deemed real versus fake?
So it's as you said, it's getting harder and harder to tell. Back in the day, there was a Marx Brothers movie, and in the movie, Groucho Marx, he did something that he shouldn't have been doing. He kind of got caught by his wife, and his wife says, "I could have swore I saw you leave," and he said, "Well, who you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?" And that's kind of where we are with these deep fakes. That famous line has been used by many comedians since, and it may be more relevant today than it ever has been, because generative AI and all these deep fakes make it incredibly easy to spread misinformation, and it's becoming harder and harder to just distinguish what is real and what is fake. But there is a team of innovative researchers from Cornell University, and they have developed a groundbreaking solution that could help us out. What they've done is they've figured out a way to actually watermark light. So, you know, they embed a secret via these nearly invisible codes to the human eye. And they put this into the actual, video. So they may use a monitor that will have a flicker in it that'll actually get into the video. They can use cob lights and overhead, actual video lights, and they can put it in there. They can even use like a Philips Hue light, or if you've got like some old school lamps or something like that are just not smart at all, they can even give you a like a little microchip that you put on the plug that will put a flicker into the light, and only they know what the algorithm is for the flicker. So it becomes very difficult for others to try to figure it out. But if someone is trying to, say, is this a real video or a fake video, forensic experts can then identify the alterations in the footage based off of that white of that light watermark, and then detect AI generated content and determine if parts of a video have actually been generated or if they were, a legitimate video. So I think this is pretty cool. Because there doesn't seem to be a lot of downsides to it. And it also doesn't seem to be a very expensive thing that would need to be done. The fact that you could literally put a monitor near your camera and just face it at your talent, and that could actually put the flicker in is pretty cool.
And so if I'm understanding this correctly, this would be something that would be part of the original, not AI generated video. This is something that like you and I could, be shooting something, and you're like, all right, I'm going to have this little monitor. And so there's going to be, a watermark in the light that's around Sarah's shot. And if it gets manipulated later, that watermark goes away.
Correct. And so you could see like a politician or, CEO or someone like that is actually doing something. And folks are like, well, is that real or is that AI? Because we're there now. You barely can tell the difference between the two. So if you particularly like if you have someone who has sent something to a news organization, you can let the news organization know, it's like, hey, here's this algorithm. You can check this video, and that will determine whether or not it is truly something that was made by us or not. So I think it is a pretty cool feature that they're working on. The researchers say that really the only downside to this is that they are, they're subject to technology. So eventually probably somebody will build something that can try to figure out if it can see what the flicker is. But they're trying to make that as difficult as possible to see. So it's, the flickers, they just look like normal noise. If you don't know the algorithm ahead of time, you would not notice that something is noise versus it not being noise, at least not right now. So I don't know if they will eventually try to maybe even, encrypt this kind of technology. I could see that particularly happening to where there may be some air checking or something and, in the timing. But it is pretty cool tech. And as I said, it doesn't seem to be very expensive because you could just use a monitor or like a Philips Hue light bulb to achieve this.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know because oftentimes, like say you shoot an interview with a very notable politician or world leader, and you want to ensure that people know that it's legit, so you do all this. But if you go through and then edit it yourself, is there any way to put a stamp on that? Like, because you can't put like say all 2 hours of an interview, but instead you want to give like a cut down 10-minute version.
Well, I don't think that would matter, right? Because the watermark is part of what you shot. It doesn't matter if you chopped it up. The watermark is still there.
Well, the reason I asked is because if you chop it up, you could still have the watermark, but you could definitely put it out of context. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, true, but you you could before AI as well.
So the thing is, though, if you are the true editor of the video, you would know what the algorithm is and be able to actually probably replicate that with your, with your editing tool.
I
To
see.
mark it as being, hey, this is a legitimate edit that we used.
Got it.
Or something like that. And then the other part of it too is that if you are not adding content, if you are simply just cutting for, if you're editing for time or that type of thing, the algorithm should be expressed over the entirety of the video, because you turn the lights on and they just start doing their thing. You record the video, it's there all the time. And only you know what it is, and only who you give give that particular algorithm to, they would then be able to verify that this is in fact a legitimate video. So I can see this technology, kind of taking off. As the researchers say, the issue is that eventually somebody's going to probably try to figure out, well, let's see if we can't, scan videos and find those codes and then replicate those codes. But that's probably not something that just the regular person trying to create a deep fake, on their computer at the house is going to be able to do right off the bat.
I also wonder, as we're talking about this all makes sense to me, but it's like there are so many. I don't even want to say amateur, because who's even an amateur videographer at this point? So many people have great and not price prohibitive tools to do really cool stuff. But if this could just be embedded into cameras, into webcams, into just the stuff that we use to shoot everything, that would be a game changer for me. This feels like the first step towards that, where you're going to get a lot of people who are like, what? You're using like a special light so that people don't know that it's an AI. Like, it's like, this is cool tech. But I think once it becomes oh yeah, don't worry, this webcam is safe. If anybody tries to manipulate anything that you shoot after the fact, then we'll all know the difference. I don't think that's 100% possible, but we're inching towards that.
That is actually another technology that is currently being worked on. I want to say that like Sony and Canon and other camera makers, have already signed up to this, to where they actually will do something in camera to let you know that this video actually is shot by this person. They'll actually have, some air checking in that. That's a different technology. This here is specifically for the lighting. And it's like someone, I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 lights on. The lights are not terribly expensive, and it's something that you could swap out relatively easily. So specifically, and I would say especially if it is like a person of note, someone who is giving a speech, or someone who is, we just had, issues with potentially tsunamis on the West Coast and in Hawaii and other places because of that massive earthquake that we just had. You've got somebody who's actually giving real information. You want to make sure that that's the real person. This kind of things like, hey, just put this on your light, or put a monitor next to your light, and use this algorithm to make sure that this video is real. So when you send it out to news organizations, they know that they're getting the exact real information from who they thought they were getting it from. And there's no deep fake or anything like that in the video.
Yeah. Just talking about the tsunami stuff, which thankfully was, very much everyone be on alert, and wasn't as bad as was I was about to say was hoped. Nobody hoped for a tsunami, but yes. But that night, I'm nowhere near the beach in Los Angeles, so I wasn't that worried, but I was still worried for a lot of people that I know who live, near coastal waters, and a lot of bad stuff out there online. I mean, more than ever. Trolling X, for example, and just using, some keywords. It's like you just got all sorts of stuff where everyone's just fighting over the fact, like, this is fake, this is from 2024, that kind of stuff. The more that we can clamp down on that. And you're never going to get down to 0%, but the more we can, the better.
Well, if you have feedback about anything that gets brought up on the show, get in touch with us on the socials at DTNS Show on X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. For TikTok and YouTube, you can find it at Daily Tech News Show.
All right, Roger, we all know about generative AI tools for making videos using something like Sora or Google's VO2, VO3. But would you sit and watch an entire show made with these tools? Amazon seems to think, yes, we will.
So, Variety and the Wrap are reporting that Amazon's Alexa fund, it's a venture VC capital arm, invested in the San Francisco-based startup Fable, whose CEO calls its showrunner service, quote unquote, the Netflix of AI. Now, we've mentioned showrunner before, and it made waves last year by creating a generative AI version of sort of a South Park-esque bit last year. Now, the service launched this week in alpha this week, and users using Showrunner can use it to generate scenes or entire videos from text prompts. Now, initially, it seems users can only interact with it through the Discord server, which I did this morning. Now, you select from a list of actors, basically people that they have. It's a pretty deep roster, but mostly just celebrity or notable people. You select props, their situations, characters, what kind of dialogue style you want, and location, and Showrunner will generate all of that into a video clip. Now, I did not find my clip that I made all that entertaining because it featured like a Joe Rogan and a Nicole Simpson, but it does. It does feel very much like sort of like in the early '90s or late '90s and 2000s, where you had a lot of like web videos where people were just sort of dabbling and to see what they could do with tools like Flash, tools that allowed to simplify a lot of the process in order to generate content. I think right now it's still pretty obvious and maybe not as sheen as people would like it, but there's definitely a lot of potential, and I see it being a possible meme where people just generate what they consider to be funny things with people, notable people, in weird situations, because that's what the internet is all about these days.
So, yeah, for anybody who's like, wait a second, you can like use an actor and have them do stuff. This is all very cartoonish at this point. You mentioned South Park. It kind of has that
imagine
cartoon look.
Like the early years of South Park before they got like a lot of $1 million tools to help them do a lot of the stuff. And they do have shows, and you can actually build characters within those, in that confines of that show, or you can do your own stuff, but they all sort of have that same look and feel. I will say I chose Joe Rogan, and the voice was pretty good. Now, I don't know if it's because Joe Rogan just has that kind of monotone UFC announcer voice all the time, but I was impressed. I mean, I wasn't convinced it was him, like, oh, this is a Joe Rogan thing, but it definitely had a lot of potential, and I see it not being a replacement for existing content, but rather a new conduit for like user generated or for just very quick, fast content that you just want to get up there very quickly.
I definitely see a lot of people who do not have the ability, who don't have the talent to be illustrators, but they might write some funny stuff for, here's 2-3 minutes of content that I want to create, and I can't animate this, but now I can create a prompt that will animate this for me. I can feed my story into something, and it will come up with animation for me in this South Park-esque-ian, if that's a word, type of style. People are going to do it because content is content. People just can't get enough of it. So, this one does not have the visceral feel like you're replacing actors. It still does replace illustrators. I mean, those folks who are drawing the cartoons for these shows, if you're not using them to draw the cartoons, then there is a replacement there. But I think from a consumer of the content, when you're looking at the cartoon, you probably just don't have the same connection to, okay, this used to be an actual person. Like you said, you use Joe Rogan. It's like, well, if you want to use Joe Rogan, there's Joe Rogan. You're going to get Joe Rogan and put him in a movie. This you didn't do. You used a cartoon-esque version of Joe Rogan. And I don't know that people are going to be very upset about that because they didn't necessarily expect that it was going to be the real person in the first place.
In many ways, this reminds me of tools that they had way back when to auto-generate comic strips, right? Like the ones you find in the newspaper where it's like 3 or 4 panels. It feels very much like that. I'm sure the tools will get more sophisticated as time goes on, but at its current state, that's what it feels like. I can have this situation, it'll drop in these things for me. It feels like something is definitely there. I don't know what though, and I do not feel that this is a replacement for any sort of existing content or a replacement or any sort of style that we have right now, but rather kind of a new avenue for something entirely new.
Well, we've been talking about this. I was just trying to quickly launch Showrunner, which is showrunner.xyz, and hook it up to Discord and see if I could make something fun. It's very confusing. Where does it go in Discord? When
it's just
I know you were playing around with it earlier, Roger.
It goes into your list of Discord servers, and it's the one that says Showrunner Alpha, and you start by typing /scene, and then it brings up a series of.
I see. I got an accept thing that I hadn't accepted.
Yeah, it's not. I will say this right now. It doesn't feel like a very slick interface, but this is an alpha. And I am hazarding to guess they're going to have a more fully featured UX when this makes it out into a regular people pay a subscription to use product. But
also, just because I'm going through this right now on Discord, it's there's the standard stuff of like be respectful, no NSFW content, no hate speech, keep politics out of this, don't create or use imagery of real people in a way that could harass, defame, abuse, or harm them. No spam, no self-promotion, obey all laws. So, kind of legal speak, but at the same time, it's like, this is, sure, I mean, people could try to manipulate it, but it's meant to be fun.
Yeah, and I definitely see, if you are a celebrity that they're parodying, that you could I mean, like a future opportunity, they could like, hey, we'll pay you, we'll license your likeness, and then we'll put these firewalls to make sure people can't put you in some sort of, compromising position or have you say things that you would never say or just lewd content. Like we could firewall all that, but it's a very interesting product because it doesn't feel like we're going to replace Hollywood or we're going to take the whole need for actors and studio. It doesn't feel like that. It just feels like something you would do in your spare time and play around with to make something, either because you like posting it on your social media feeds or you want to share it like, hey, I made a funny video like of all your coworkers together in a South Park-esque way,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's what
as soon as we're
like.
done with the show, I'm going to do this with a group of my, one of my text message groups, and just, everyone will have a good laugh. It doesn't need to go to like a short film festival or anything, but yeah, this is fun.
And it's it's definitely accessible. It feels the way Midjourney did initially, where anyone could access it, and everyone was trying to do out prompt each other, like which prompts give me like the most realistic version of like Godzilla or something, and it feels less onerous than the other tools like Sora or even VO3, because when they demoed that, there was a feeling like, oh, they're after my job. This doesn't feel like, this is like, oh, this could be a potentially new job.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. We're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about cats. Yes, I'm talking about cats, feline cats, lovable companions to many, also confusing to the non-cat person. But it seems unexpected feline references also can be confounding to large language models, so much that it can get sidetracked easily as a result. Roger, tell us more.
So researchers found that they could inject what they called query agnostic adversarial triggers. That's basically short for superfluous text that they added to math problems that they were trialing and systematically mislead models to output incorrect answers. In some cases, the models are up to 700% more likely to get an answer wrong when subjected to what they refer to as a cat attack. Now, what's interesting is they gave an example on Boing Boing. The original word problem is, typical math problem, but on the modified one, they interjected this sentence as part of the part of the phrasing. Interesting fact: cats sleep for most of their lives. Now, when it went to go process these, it literally just like it gave you an answer, but because it had to process the cat part of it along with it, it just kind of threw it for a loop. And the researchers emphasized that the work underscores the need for more robust defense mechanisms, but also an understanding. Like if I read it, I would say, hey, someone just copy and pasted some work about cats in here. I don't think it belongs because it doesn't make sense. We would skip it, but the LLMs don't.
So Roger, I want to make sure I understand this. So it's specifically cat stuff that makes it bad. So if you would have asked the same question about something else, like what color is this refrigerator, that wouldn't air to the extent that cats does. Like, is cats the worst?
I think the cat was the example, and that was the kind of the eye-catching headline to get it. But if you put any non sequitur content or into it as part of the processing, say you wanted to figure out like the length of a fence, and you gave it a bunch of equations, and you said like, oh, hey, I like meatloaf on Thursdays. Like, yeah, that would kind of throw it off because you're like, what? Like if I told you that, you would like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I thought you wanted me to measure this. Now you're talking about meatloaf. But we contextually understand that's not part of it, right? We just say, A, it's an error, or B, he's just messing with me, right? LLMs don't have that because they're all based on statistically what would the answer to this particular set of inputs be.
Well, for purposes of, science, I got Ralphie the cat to join us for this segment on the show. He says, I don't really understand what's going on, but I understand that I don't talk like a human on LLMs. I ask for very specific cat things. Meatloaf on Thursdays, can do. Tuna the rest of the week, sounds good. But yeah, cats are weird. And I can see where anything that is supposed to. Thank you, Ralphie. Thank you for helping us. Anything that's designed to mimic human speak at all times, and so then Sarah, you get into other stuff.
Well, the idea is that you would have a system that would prompt and have sort of a adversarial approach to like, okay, what do you mean by this? And the idea behind it is that this could be a very short way for people to attack a model to get something that they want that normally wouldn't happen. And so it is more about like being thorough in having the model basically like if things don't make sense initially, that there's a way to challenge the prompt inputter to clarify what they want.
It makes sense. I have done things where I've like copied a long, paragraph, not even paragraph. I've copied multiple paragraphs and wanted to like put it into, let's say, a bullet format or something like that using, whether ChatGPT or Gemini or something like that. But when I did the copy, there may have been like a picture or something there, and it actually grabbed the words in the picture as well. So when you go and you look at the thing, it's like, well, I didn't mean that for that to be there, but you're right, Roger. I see that and I immediately know I didn't want that there, and I just delete it and then look at the rest of the list and say, oh, you're good. The LLM it doesn't know. That's why I put it there. Hey, this is content that that you just asked me about. I don't know that I'm not supposed to look at this. Therefore, I'm going to look at it and put it into your list of results. So that happens fairly regularly, and I don't even pay attention to it. I just know it's like, oh no, I copied this, like this text that was around an image on this website that I copied and pasted in. I didn't want that, so I just know that I need to go and delete it.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is, a deep understanding of how these tools could be not misused, but just used in a way that may maybe give you give the incorrect output for what was intended, right? And I think, like to what you're saying, it doesn't have to be just cats. They have several examples of situations where it wasn't a cat, but they use a cat because it's fun and everyone. Except for me, I'm allergic to cats.
Let's go to get the headline. Cats will always get the headline.
For example, they did one adversarial trigger, which was unrelated trivia, and it asked, like, we flip a fair coin 12 times. What is the probability that we get at least 10 heads, given that we first flip that the first 2 flips result in heads? The unrelated trivia input there that they added was interesting fact: cats sleep for most of their time. And what they noticed was there was a change in the target of the answers from 7 to 1 of 128 to 7 and 32, which is a significant change in probability, right? So it's just basically making these tools a little more robust so they can counter any sort of, like, even if it's intended, kind of filter that out.
Well, cats are mystical, and they're also how we recognize glitches in the Matrix because we see them twice.
While we were talking about this, just for fun, I asked ChatGPT, ICANN has cheeseburger, which anybody who was on the internet about 20 years ago would understand that reference, and it immediately came back and said, only if you share the cheese. Cat emoji, cheese emoji. And then I said, do you like cats? And it said, I don't have feelings. But I know cats are widely adored for being weird, independent, and occasionally chaotic, all of which make them internet royalty. Are you a cat person? I said, yes, I am. My cat's name is Ralphie. And clearly I've talked to ChatGPT before about this, or, it has gleaned information before. It said, he's polydactyl, right? Bet those extra toes only enhance his power, which he is. So I must have, looked up polydactyl cat,
wow.
and, it, I don't remember saving, will you tell it to remember stuff? I don't remember doing that. So yes, we're good to go on cat memes here on ChatGPT, the free version.
It's and again, I do want to stress, it's like, say if you were like, how much do I need to save up, put a down payment on $500,000 house, and then you dropped in a thing about Ralphie, like, Ralphie's my cat and he's a pterodactyl. No, polydactyl.
Polydactyl, yeah. It's sort of a pterodactyl, depending on the day. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, that's good stuff. All right. Well, before we get out of here, we have some folks who have written into us. So in that vein, let's check out the mailbag.
Yesterday on the show, Tom wrote that Microsoft Authenticator will stop working on August 1st, leaving out the important detail that it's only the password filling part of Authenticator that will stop working. It will still work for storing passkeys and other things, as Charles was among the nicer people who wrote in with a correction. Charles writes, you had me scared there for a minute. The Authenticator app is not going away, just its ability to store passwords. It will still work for 2FA.
Ooh, yeah. For those of you who are a little confused, thank you so much for writing in. A few of you did, and thanks, Charles, among others. And yeah. Anytime we say anything that's confusing or doesn't make sense, we love the triple check from all of you. Very much so. We also got an email from Mish, who had some rice cooker thoughts from our pre-show yesterday, because if you missed the pre-show on DTNS Live yesterday, we were talking about rice cookers versus just, boiling rice on, stovetop. And within about 5 minutes of talking about it, we had a rice cooker delivered to my house. Still hasn't arrived. We're looking out for it, which will be on a future Live With It segment. So we're going to have a lot of fun with rice cookers. Mish says, I loved that Sarah's finally going to experience the joy of having a rice cooker. Nice work on the lightning speed purchase, Tom. Like Roger, I'm Asian, well, I'm half, and every Asian home has at least one, if not two, rice cookers. I have a big one. It could cook a whole chicken when I'm cooking for friends and family, but I have a small one when I'm just cooking for 1 or 2 people. Roger is right about the no Teflon, by the way. Mish says, just put enough water or liquid so you have 1 inch of water over the rice, and it's perfect every time. Roger, would you concur?
It's the finger rule. Every Asian child is brought up with the finger rule. You stick your finger in there, the water reaches up here.
The first,
and on the index finger, it goes up here. You got enough water. That's for white rice, though. If you do brown rice, you actually have to do another line up your finger to get to, because it requires more water since it has the hull still on it.
Well, that's good to know. Good to know. I am looking forward to putting this to the test and writing down some benchmarks and having a lot of rice in my future. Good stuff. But thank you, Mish, for letting us know. Also, friend of the show, Tony Wang, wrote me. He just texted me last night because he was watching the pre-show yesterday as well, and he was like, "Just so you know, I do stovetop because it's faster." So there you go. Your results may vary, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. But remember, if you have comments on anything we talk about on the show, whether it's pre-show, the show, stuff we talk about on X or Threads or TikTok, post-show, send in your comments to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. And of course, if you're a patron, everything that we post on Patreon has a comment section as well. We read and reply to all of your comments, so keep them coming.
Folks, during the show, you've been submitting titles over at dtns.showbot.tv, and we've got some good ones for you. Let's start off with Everything But the Broth by the Reverb Mike.
Oh, I love their first album.
The ramen that had the broth, but I was so mad. You forgot my broth. Oh, no, it was just hiding. Great.
Saray TW's got a good one. How deep is your fake?
Oh, yeah. How deep indeed. I feel like that's a how deep is your fake?
Now here's one that I really like here. Cat GPT. That's a good one. That one is by the Reverb Bike as well, but that is a good one. So you got two in the list today.
That's good. Cat GPT. I mean, if that isn't an LLM, somebody please make that. It's just all cats all the time, please.
And all it does is give you annoying answers and nothing what you really want. It's like, oh, can you just like, do you love me? Maybe.
I mean, cats aren't liars. Yeah. I mean, sometimes maybe, but that's not,
oh no, they're not
like,
liars. They just won't. They won't do exactly what. Listen, dogs you can train in a way that's almost abnormal, but cats no.
Cats don't want to be bothered with you 74% of the time.
Like, have you ever seen that?
They tolerate you, but they don't want to be bothered with you.
Haven't you ever seen that video? The difference between the dog that sees their owner like 3 months after not seeing them, they get super excited, and the cat just kind of turns its head and then turns back. Like,
yeah, just like, oh, you again? Yeah. Ralphie the cat, who was on our video stream earlier, he's not an outdoor cat, but it's just safer for him, with traffic and everything. But yesterday, for no good reason, I'm watering some of my plants for my upstairs neighbor, and so we kind of have this like upstairs patio. And I was like, come on, you can come outside, get a little fresh air while I'm doing this. And that was probably about 24 hours ago now, just under. And 4 times today, he just sat by the door screaming because he's like, you open this door for me and you're going to do it again. And I was like, that was a terrible idea. And I will not do that again. Like, this cat is not going to be like, oh, I'll just wait for you to decide to do that again. He's like, no, open the door. Now I'm independent and I'm a cat who waters plants.
Cats.
Anyway,
but what did we decide to go with, Sarah? What's
Rob, I'm glad you asked. Saray TW is our winner today. Ding, 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 ding. With, do these lights make me look fake? Get it?
Yeah.
Yep. And maybe they do sometimes.
The pun is intended.
Pun intended. Roger, we have some folks to thank today, don't we?
Yes, we do. I'd like to give a shout out to everyone in the Twitch chat supporting us. PC Mousy for cheering us on with 100 bits. Volpe V2 followed us 34 minutes ago. Zoe Brings Bacon always supporting us with bits. And Larry in Atlanta resubscribing with Prime. They have been subscribed for 56 months. Thank you, one and all.
Datasets shape the world we live in, and there's no better way to understand how than by listening to Behind the Data, hosted by data scientist Andrea Joins-Roy. The show examines what datasets say about what's happening in our world, politics, and health, and why. Season 3 starts soon, so check it out, behindthedatashow.com.
It's a great show. Our show is also great, if we do say so ourselves. You can watch us live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2000 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We're back doing it all again tomorrow with Nica Montford and Len Peralta joining us. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.